but here we are with the Beat Drop Episode 6, Season 2, with overtime, not on YouTube because we couldn't get it to work. Hopefully we will next week, so please don't bite our heads off. So today we have Overtime Gaming with me, with Billy Goat and Shadow Fang of Overtime. So starting with Billy, we'll introduce ourselves and get right back into where we technically already were, but without you guys.
Hi, I'm Billy. I'm the captain and GM for Overtime. Uh, we played last season in Harmony, and we're back with Discord to win.
Fair. And I'm Shadowfang. I'm the off tank for Overtime, and for the most part, I just like spawn camping people as Winston.
Nice. Well, we'll get right into you guys. So Overtime, like you said, Harmony tier team in season 3. Didn't stay very long. And now we're seeing the resurgence of the team here in Season 4 Discord tier with a little bit of a chip on the shoulder to potentially prove what they couldn't, stay to the end of the do last season. So walk us through what happened and what you plan on doing.
Well, last season was really unfortunate for us. We did get a few players who did lie to us about their SR, and we were under an org that wasn't fantastic, wasn't working with us very much. Promised things they couldn't do, usual stuff with this. We did have to fold, but it wasn't our first choice, let's say. Now we're back in Discord tier, and we made a lot more pickups, and we have a better coaching staff, and we're away from that org now. So this year, we're looking to win. Like I said.
Nice. All right. Oh well. Walk us through your new and improved, hopefully, or definitely, roster of some Harmony tier veterans and any new talent we haven't seen.
Well, there's me, Shadow, and Telm on tank. Me from Overtime, Shadow here from Boop, and Telm from One Last Ride. We have on DPS, this is a lot of people. We have Stomedy, Kronos, Crimson, and Conviction. Stomedy and Kronos came with us from Overtime in Harmony. Crimson is from Undead Batteries, the runners-up of Harmony tier last year. And Conviction is a friend of Shadow's who tried out, and we like this play. Next we have our supports, Manaka, Crossfade, and also Conviction. He plays Flex, I should say. Manaka was from Harmony last year too. She moved up with us. And Crossfade was from Maelstrom. And quite frankly, we loved this play, and we picked him up for that.
Nice. Okay, so you mentioned a little bit about the individual presence of your players and their roles. So walk us through, I guess, what everybody's like. You don't have to say what you'll be running in like a comp wise, but just like as a fun aside, like favorite characters. Obviously, like it's a little bit easier for you guys to name them, but if you do know your teammates, what is their signatures? Like for tank players, it could be like Winston is a lot of people's favorites, but we don't see a lot of. So maybe it could be fun to know that kind of stuff. But it could be for anybody.
Look, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a Ryan main. I'll pin into your backline. I'll do whatever. And Shadow keeps me alive through it, thankfully, most of the time.
We also got Telm, everyone's favorite Orisa main. We got me also on tank, everyone's favorite Diva one trick. That never got to play Diva last season, sad.
And now he's back.
I know, back with a vengeance.
Else. I want to highlight Stomedy. He's been playing a lot of Genji for no reason. He's doing really well on it. We don't know why. He's picked it up one day.
We never asked him to, he just did.
Yeah, he just started playing it in comp and, it worked.
It works. I'll say Manaka's best hero would probably be Ana.
Yeah.
Like her sleep dogs and antis are always on point when we need it to be.
Mm-hmm. Crossfeed, I'd say is Lucio, honestly. His beats keep us alive a lot more than we should be alive, especially with me on Reinhardt.
And his Mercer's not something to scoff at either, honestly. Crimson, everyone knows him as, you know, the widow extraordinaire.
Especially when drunk.
the drunken master of sorts. We also got you can't forget Conviction. Honestly, his hero pool is just so wide that it's hard to pick one hero because he doesn't really like specialize in any hero. He just kind of just plays them all to about an equal level.
Yeah, and last but hopefully not least, we have Kronos, who he loves to play McCree and Widow, and you can hear him in our comms constantly saying outplayed whenever he flashes somebody. So that's a lot of fun to deal with.
Interesting. So, very, very well-rounded roster. Looks like you're definitely prepared for this meta with some Rhine Diva specialists as well as some Lucio McCrees out there. And Ana, if you want to consider her very meta, I think that spot's a little bit more debatable. I think Ana, Moira, all those kind of healers that complement Lucio feel pretty good right now.
Yeah.
So that's cool that you guys have a flex player who's a DPS and support to be able to go there, and then you have an Ana specialist who probably can play Moira too. Most people with a pulse seem to be able to. So talk to us about Overtime's history. So we know that you're season 3, but how long has the team been active, whether it be in your current form or not?
Well, active is a strong word. We mostly split up after our after dropping out of Harmony tier. We kind of went our own separate ways. Me and Stami and Chrono stayed together. Manaka and our old off tank Jax stayed together and made a team. But one day I was messing around coming through Tranquility's server, and I saw a prediction poll. And of course, our game was a bye, but for some reason, I think 19 people had said they wanted Overtime to win. So that I thought that was kind of funny, and I messaged Manaka and I was like, "Hey, how funny would it be if we came back for Discord tier?" And the rest, we're here now. It happened. We've been together since probably November, December. Definitely before Harmony playoffs, or playoffs of last year. And
Gotcha.
we've been scrimming that long, yeah.
Roger. Well, that's pretty cool. Is there any notable things that you guys have been doing since your exit from season 3? Any other tournaments you've been into, or any long strenuous weeks of practice that have some sort of noteworthy like something that you could mention aside from just the nonstop grind? But if it's that, then that's completely fine.
Probably when we managed to get me off of DPS.
Ooh.
Because when we started out, I was on DPS, and then I decided I don't like clicking heads anymore. And keep in mind, I switched to Orisa. I was a fool, but thankfully the meta fell right in my lap.
That's pretty good to see. You definitely don't want to be in Orisa jail. A lot of us ex-main tank players, now retired old men, fell victim to the cattle drive that was the Orisa meta. But good to see that we have the young lads out in armor now, sporting the hammer. We all can respect. But what got you interested in Tranquility as a community, whether it be from season 3 or even season 4? I guess you've answered season 4 pretty convincingly, of just you guys saw how much the community wanted you to win over a game, so you decided to bring it back. But initially, what was your motivation?
I won't lie, I had no clue what Tranquility was coming into the 3rd season. We joined that organization, and the manager at the time said, "Hey, I want you guys to play in Tranquility." And my response was, "I'm sorry, what?" Then we joined the server, and overall, through our 2 or 3 SR issues we had, uh, Suggington was great to work with. Everyone was super kind about uh, the unfortunate events that transpired, but it was nice having that instead of a huge tournament full of people just out for blood. This is like a little bit more tame. It's a bit smaller and more like a community instead of just a mass of people.
Gotcha. Yeah, definitely. Um, I think one of the big benefits, right, if of tranquility is it's like the togetherness, or I guess the willingness to respond and the willingness to help of the community. Everybody seems kind of in it together. No one's like, "Hey, you're on this team. There's no way I'm giving you a helping hand."
Yeah, of course.
So that's super cool. Um, Shout outs to the community for that. Guess we've been hearing a lot about the history, so we'll talk more about what we're gonna hopefully see from you guys. So what kind of plans do we have, or do you have? I shouldn't include myself too much. Of For the season 4 of Discord tier, I'm assuming that you guys hope to win most of it, but I've talked to a couple teams at this point that are more interested in like the progression of their team rather than just raw like we're gonna win the whole thing, right? They're more interested like, hey, we're a lot of us are in plat, we want to level up our game and get a lot of us to diamond and our diamond players to masters. But what are you going in as the goal? Is it to win the whole thing? Is it get certain players certain amount of game time? Like what is the final goal of overtime season 4 Discord tier?
Well, the mentality I've been trying to run with, especially more recently, is that the goal of overtime is to improve as players and as a team, and winning just going to be a consolation prize. Uh, we're really interested in possibly moving up to the next tier next year, if or when that happens, which hopefully it will. And of course, we have a lot of great competition down here in Caliber, Eclipse, your prodigious team.
Hellhounds.
Hellhounds, yeah. They're on a tear recently. We're hoping to win. We're hoping to roll. Not gonna make any promises I myself can't fulfill, but we're gonna win more than a few matches, and that's a promise.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's definitely good to know. Is there any other teams that you're specifically looking out for? I know you mentioned a bunch, but is there like one you've had your sights on since the team's inception, or is it just like if they're in the way, they're gonna get knocked over?
Probably Caliber.
It's from Caliber.
Yeah. So for a short time we did lose Monaka to Caliber before grabbing her back. And not only did we lose Monaka, but Normac was the original tryout that I had to go against when I was trying out for overtime to begin with. So it's slowly becoming a team that we just wanna just overcome and beat.
Yeah, especially since they're with the legacy of Commit, who didn't lose a game last season, and just kind of stepped on the playoffs. So that's something that, and they're getting coaching from them, which was definitely something to hear. We're coming into this with a lot of confidence that we can, take it to Caliber, and I hope that hope a bit of a rivalry comes up between us, a friendly little thing.
Yeah, that'd definitely be cool. I like that about these small community tournaments, is that you can really pick out the teams that are, whether they're within the realm of beating or not, that you can pick them out and say these are the guys that we wanna beat at the end of the day. Um, for us last season, that was definitely Alt F4 because of just how the way our preseason tournament ended, and we are just like, well, we got to the end and we got stopped by them. So then for almost no reason, we had like this vendetta
Yeah.
for the Alt F4 boys, and we knew none of them in real life. We're like, there's no reason we should be this hostile to these people. But that's what's fun is just like these needless rivalries where it's just like, oh, at the end of the day, it's all sportsmanship, right? But it's just neat to have a team that you're just out to get, and for some reason you're able to put that extra 10-20% of effort forward in those kind of
Yeah.
games rather than games that you definitely should be putting that effort towards. But luckily for you, Caliber is looking to be one of those teams where you're going to need that extra effort anyway. Definitely a bunch
Yeah.
of good players on that team. I have yet to see too much of them. They definitely put on a good show against the Habaneros in the preseason tournament, but we're going to see
Definitely.
them soon enough. So hopefully
Speaking of Volta 4,
we'll go for it.
PDK just messaged me. We tried out PDK quite a bit across like 4 tryouts because we didn't get a good scrim in for a while. We did lose him to Alta 4 just barely, and just wanna let him know, you're going down, PDK.
That's interesting.
Only him.
There was a neat little coincidence with a lot of our scrims going into the preseason tournament and before then, where we always seem to play against PDK and like Crimson and Terractin and all these other players that are definitely out there on the grind trying to get the best team possible. A bunch of really good players, but I have a weird relationship with PDK Kid. He seems not someone I'm able to shake. It just kind of lingers. So
Yeah,
so hopefully you guys can
he's
shake
always
him.
there.
But so I'm looking, or I'm hearing also in the chat about. I don't want to only attribute this knowledge to me, but it looks like you guys actually play Alta for season 5. But we'll go down
We do.
the list of people that you're guaranteed to play, since we only really have the stage 1 schedule, since stage 2 is determined by your performance. So you start out against Maelstrom, a definitely a team that's going to turn a lot of heads in my opinion, because they're any team that came directly from Harmony to your team is going to be kind of given the short end of the stick when it comes to like initial rankings, probably just because everyone's like, well, they're Harmony tier players, but we have to eventually get through that stigma of no, they're not. They're definitely Discord players at this point. They prove themselves. Then you have One Trick, who we just had an interview with, a bunch of really cool guys over there, and they consider themselves a pretty weak team, which is interesting to hear a team proclaim that about themselves. But I think that shows a lot of maturity. Is like they're not in it particularly to impress anybody but themselves. They're mainly in it to get. It's more for improvement. They're not here to win at the end of the day over or against all odds against every team every time. They're more of just like, let's get our plat players to diamond, let's get our diamond players to masters, let's have a good day and play some games. So I respect that heavily. I think that's really cool, and I think that's a lot more of a healthy goal than some of the other teams where you go in, you're like, I need to outperform everybody all the time, and then these guys are sitting back having fun and could potentially use that healthy mindset and net a couple key wins on teams that they not necessarily should have been able to beat. So I'm looking forward to watching them. So definitely don't consider them a slouch. And then you got Caliber after that. Your self-proclaimed rivals. Hopefully the community will latch onto that too. And that's a big game. And then Tailwind, another pretty strong team. I've scrimmed against them a couple times. And I definitely am looking forward to the 5th game, Alt F4, versus you guys, because then you guys get to see if PDK was worth the time or not. So, aside from that, I mean that's a pretty stacked schedule. I'm gonna be honest with you.
A little bit.
I think the only team missing from that big roster that I've noticed is like Hanamar Hellhounds. That team has impressed me very much so. Same with the Habaneros, actually. I shouldn't just narrow it down to one team, but there's a lot of good teams out there. So I guess you can't get the all-star bracket, but this is pretty close to it. So what are your feelings about any of these games? I know we've already talked a little bit about Alt F4 and Caliber, but any thoughts or heck even prayers going into some of these games?
I think the mentality that I've noticed just from like every game that like we even whether it's scrims, whether it's comp, it's just like we're not gonna focus too heavily on the team. We're just gonna be like we're gonna play our own game. If they don't want to play our game, we're gonna make them play our game, and we're gonna go from there. Like we do our best not to get mentally boomed and like 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 just keep our spirits up as much as possible. Just like like you can try and remind ourselves like, hey, like we're not slouches. Like we want people to like be scared of us.
Yeah. Okay. Time to drop a little bit of spice. As we know, Crossfade was on Maelstrom, last year, and he's got a little bit of a personal want to beat them, and that's kind of carried into the rest of us. We've never been much of a team to come into a game with no confidence. Like we're gonna get rolled, we're gonna lose, because we firmly believe that, not that we're gonna win everything, but if we come in with confidence, we're gonna play better than if we don't. So we might get called ignorant, might get called arrogant, but when it comes down to it, we'll see what happens.
Gotcha. All right. Well, how about your team as a whole? What kind of style are you going to be bringing to the Discord tier? I think a lot of the teams, especially returning ones, have this like how Ulta 4 is going to play. You know how Eclipse is going to play. I know they're an entirely different roster, but this is more going back to last season. You know how these teams kind of operate, and even if they're running mirror comps, like especially last season where it was like the Orisa Sig, May, and all the other pieces of that terrible Millennium Puzzle. Um, you
Love your
still
reference.
you still get a sort of a vibe from each team about how they go into engagements, how they structure their team fights, their ult economy, and just that kind of stuff. Or maybe standout players that refuse to kind of take the meta and still play their signature player on a map that favors them. So is there any style that you can discern from your current team, or it could even be like a specific comp that you guys just really love playing in ladder? It doesn't have to be in the community because I don't want you to divulge, like I said, all your secrets, but as much as you're willing to share.
Well, I don't want to spoil a little too much, but I do want to say that with the amazing flexibility that our players have, we actually have quite a few styles depending on who you're playing against. We have such a diverse roster that we can actually run multiple different styles because a lot of our players are very flexible.
Gotcha. What comes with flexibility in some lesser rosters is an inadequacy on like the foundations, right? Is you get like a jack of all trades, a master of none kind of player. And do you think that your roster has the potential to fall victim to not being up to snuff, or do you have you practiced it? You've rinsed repeated. You think no matter what scenario you're in, you're gonna have the tools of the trade to get by?
I think that we don't have those masters of none. Stomach, we will put him on whatever, and eventually he'll get it. 3 or 4 weeks ago, we put him on the May, and he was walling me off from mortality, walling me off from the fight, getting me killed constantly. Then one day he decided to pick it up, and he's a really good May now. We a lot of our players can just pick up things randomly, and that doesn't take away from their skill on other heroes. Stomach picking up the Genji, Kronos picks up McCree for no reason sometimes.
I picked up Orisa as well for this team.
Good.
There you go.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I mean that's good to hear. We definitely don't want to see any teams just falling short due to like circumstances like, oh, we can run everything well but not perfect. So good to see that you guys are thoroughly, or hopefully thoroughly, prepared for those kind of situations. So is there a favorite comp you guys run? Is it like, well, we loved Dive Arrow, we like Brawl, we like Bunker, we like a crazy off comp I've never heard of that consists of Zarya and Roadhog, or like anything that we can right now just latch onto and stand you guys out as that's the team that loves dive, and they're better watch out for their wrecking ball or their monkey or whatever.
I would say Goats 2.0.
Yeah.
All right.
As a team, we loved goats. We didn't play in goats, but a lot of our players loved playing in goats, myself included.
Yeah.
So any way that we can just play goats again, we'll do it.
Gotcha. That's pretty cool. I definitely. It's a hard meta to look back on fondly for a lot of players. It's
Yeah.
a lot of players'
DPS.
reason that they either wanted or did leave the game. But for the people that made it through and found a way to love that style of play, more power to them, because like was an interesting way to play. I have to say that there was no meta after that, except like immediately after with the way that Arista Sigma initially worked, where the
Yeah.
kind of like goats-ish style of play. I mean, there's always been Ryan Zarya, but like with how much you could. I mean, Ryan Zarya was never a sustain comp initially. It was always just
Yeah.
run in there, die, or have them die
Take
faster.
space.
Yeah, it was nothing. It was nothing like what goats was. So I find it interesting when people were able, or I guess not able to run brawl well before goats, and then they took the time to understand why goats worked and plug and played and made it their own and really showed up. So that's super cool, and hopefully we'll see. I know they do a lot of cool community fun days where they run uh, like OG comps and stuff like that with like no limits and stuff. So if there's ever a goats tournament, I'll definitely I'll put all my e-bucks on you guys. Uh, so aside from Overwatch, is there anything that your team does together? Is you guys like come in on a day like, hey, we're just gonna watch a movie today, or we're gonna play some Minecraft, Fortnite, whatever popular games are out there? Anything specifically like two players do? Is like, oh, we have two guys who love Hearthstone, or we have a guy who plays a lot of Brawlhalla, or anything like that.
There are times where like 4 or 5 of us will just go play Minecraft for like 18 hours a day, then scrim, then go to sleep. Or Terraria. We just kind of group up and we, play a game, grind it out, we're done. Next day, we're on to something else.
And yeah, and me and Conviction outside of just the team, we also play pugs together every weekend. And I'm trying to get him to join me on the Destiny grind. Going back to old school Destiny, put in 90 hours a week because you have to.
Right, yeah, definitely. Destiny was that game with a lot of initial value for me, but then the minute I realized what I had to do to be competitively like relevant at the game, pretty shied away from that. But it was definitely a cool game, and I love Bungie and loved Halo and all that stuff, so that's super cool. And yeah, Minecraft takes hours away from good honest people.
Yeah.
Of course.
Get sucked in. But yeah, no, I'm not a big Minecraft person, but I've played it a couple times and woken up from my Minecraft coma many hours later, wondering what happened.
No, I'm with you on that one. I'm not a big Minecraft person either.
Awesome.
But I do think it is interesting because like even though not all of us like talk that much outside of the team, I do like how well we can get along as a group.
Yeah, that's definitely something that's a good start or part of a good foundation of a team is just people with natural synergy with each other. Because I mean, you could put 10 or 6 great players in a room and have them play some pretty good Overwatch, but the longevity of that team is going to be a lot less of the one that not necessarily has all those all stars, but can actually talk to each other rather than be at each other's throats over any small mistake or get toxic, just leave the game, or even just comms. So definitely appreciate teams that can stick it out like that and
Yeah.
have a good time.
I've always especially recently, I've heard a lot about players leaving teams or, you know, forcefully being kicked out of them. And it raised the question for me as a GM because when we picked out these players, Shadowfang and our whole, we ran them through multiple tryouts, and you know, we made sure first that their personality fit. It wasn't about their play. Like Shadow, what were you like 2.8?
Yeah, I was like 2.8 at the time. I rose pretty quickly after like I joined, but yeah, I think I started at 2.8.
Yeah, a lot of us didn't start too high in the season. I think I was like borderline 3K on tank, and like that was it. Uh, but we got along, and that's what's bringing us together more than like some other teams, maybe.
You can definitely see like everyone's play improving as well. Like I think almost all of us have either risen or are able to maintain that like the highest R's. Like I'm 3.2 and still climbing at the moment.
Yeah, as am I.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely would take a team with lower SR but more synergy over the just high technical skill, low synergy any day. I think that team is the team I want to root for and the team I want to be on, so I might as well put my cards in that basket. So if not Overwatch, what game would you be putting your most time into? It could be a competitive game, it could be single player. You can answer for your teammates if you'd like.
I can't answer for everyone, but for me, honestly, I think it would. It's hard to think of a game like without without Overwatch because anyone that knows me knows I'm an Overwatch fanatic. Like I watch Owl all the time. Like I have jerseys. I've been to the actual games. I've been to both playoffs. I own the Diva chair, the official Diva chair. But if I had to pick something, it'd probably be Destiny because I was really good at competitive Destiny, like to the point where I could like go against streamers and like in 1v1s and still win.
Nice.
So that would be probably my thing.
Um, I'm gonna speak for Stomedy and maybe Kronos here. We Stomedy very briefly was on a Siege team during our off time, Rainbow Six Siege, and he brought me into that world, and it's a fantastic game, and it's very complicated. And in a game like Overwatch, where of course it's very complicated on both sides, but individual play doesn't matter quite as much. It's all about team play. Rainbow Six fascinated me because you can just get those aces and win out the round for your team. Uh, I'd be playing Rainbow Six all day, if not for Overwatch.
Nice. Yeah, I recently got back into R6 and it's such a fun game.
I'm
So
trying to find some people to get back into R6. Everyone wants to shy away from it now.
No, I'm in with you.
yeah, it's super cool. I think just now that I'm just GMing and have retired from competitive play, I have more time for other games. And R6 was one of the games I tried to pick up after, and goodness gracious, is it good to be ignorant at that game because it's just so fun. You're just popping around corners, just hoping either you see
Yeah.
somebody first or that person around the corner doesn't know how to pixel peek, and you're just like, wee, here I am with this gun that kills in 2 seconds, and it's
Well,
great. I love it.
one of my favorite things about stuff like R6 and D2 is one crucial mechanic that only exists on one character in Overwatch, and that's just being able to aim down sights. There's one character that can aim down the sights without drastically changing how their gun works, and I kind of miss that from playing these older games.
Yeah, I've always said like I feel like Overwatch is one of the only games that I can do really well in because I don't need to aim to play main tank. I just need to like know what I'm doing, and that's not the hardest thing. It's just kind of like, they're there. What are they gonna do? When are they gonna do it? What should we do? Meanwhile, Siege is like, okay, I gotta click all the heads now,
Yeah.
and it's such a switch. It's a hard one to make.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to anybody that has the ability to play that game without being
Yeah.
on Adderall or a lot of energy drinks in the system. But definitely super fun. So, aside from that, let's go more towards personalities on your team. Who's the one who's picking you up when everything looks grim? I know you guys said you weren't a very negative team. You had high synergy, but everybody has those moments where it's like, darn man, we're losing this really badly. What do we need to do? Or maybe even more serious than that, you get upset at one another or just the game or something like that. Who's the one that's bringing you back when you're at that brink?
When he's here, it's probably Kronos, and not on purpose either. Uh, I can recall one moment in particular. We're trying to stagger a baby diva, and he's just in comms. We're all like, okay, what are we gonna do next fight? We're all kind of tilted. We lost a fight for no reason. Uh, and we're staggering a baby diva. I think the exact quote is "Hello, my queen," while flashbanging the diva, and he just
Interesting.
does that constantly, like stupid stuff that doesn't need to be said, but he says it. It makes us laugh, makes us like kind of forget about, the fact that we lost to whatever the last fight, and it's really helpful for a lot of us as a team to have that there.
Gotcha. That's super cool. Definitely someone who's a little bit more silly or is great in that role because, like you said, they don't even mean to help everybody out, and they just do it naturally, which is definitely the most likely person to do it because you got somebody who has to try hard at trying to bring everybody up in those dire situations where their mind's in another place about trying to get everybody uh, back from the brink, or their minds stuck in that mode of like, gosh, what's going wrong? What do I need to do to help out? But then these people that are just able to do these 2-second quips and just bring everybody back is thankful for the individuals out there that can just keep their comedy about them in times where I just wanna swear at the world. So
Yeah.
super cool. Who do you think, this is obviously like super subjective, but since joining the team, who do you think has improved the most?
Honestly, I'd say Stomedy.
Yeah,
Like,
I would tend to agree on that one.
like his May was I can't say this enough. He would wall me off from immortality, and that's a feat. Um, but you know, he picked it up. He queued out comp a ton one day, and then he brought in a more than serviceable May. His comms have gotten a lot better. He had I don't know. He's just magically pulling out a much better performance every day. And we're proud of him for that.
One thing that's interesting about our team is it really is like if it wasn't for somebody like improving so much on May, it'd be hard to like point out one person that's improving a lot because it feels
Yeah.
like when we all play together, like it really does feel like everyone's just rising in like overall level just because we're working so well together. Everyone's like free to do it. Like our comms and our calls, it very much like enables everyone to play the style that they prefer. Like even when we're like like I said, we have certain rosters for certain styles, but like even when it's like mixed in, like everyone's still able to play their style just because we work so well together.
Nice. We'll get into two more things, and then we'll wrap it up because we did start a little late, unfortunately. But they're two pretty large topics, so we can take our time on them. So don't worry too much about that.
All right.
So one would be what does your team perceive as the meta, and what do you think about it? And then the final part of that first question is, would you consider your team a meta team, and if not, then like what would you be? Anti-meta, counter-meta, stuff like that.
We think the meta right now is it's a little bit up in the air. We tend to run a few different comps, not huge in like difference, just enough to warrant a switch out. But we think that the main thing that we run right now is Rhine Diva, with of course May because May's broken. Kree and Ana Lucio, since those are our best supports probably. Um, the meta right now is really just kind of it's a toss up. It's up to whoever can come up with a better thing first. We see Overwatch League, and even then, it's like a battle of who can pull something out that's better. Like we see just Doomfist being run and Tracer being run by some of the top teams, and they don't really have a ton of reason for it. It's that they're good. They're good at it, and I love this. I personally love this phase of Overwatch after a huge change, where you can kind of just run what you want, but of course with some picks May Diva.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah. Definitely. I agree. I'd say the Diva's a little bit more. I guess, especially in comparison to May, is like a little bit less on the must pick side because
Yeah,
of just
she's
how
just very
impactful
strong.
May is. And I'd consider Lucio a little bit more of a must pick than uh than Diva in most situations, just because of how much Lucio enables Brawl. But definitely, I've seen people run Brig and Moira and Ana to much success. So I guess even then, it's still he still has to fight for a spot, while May just kind of has a nice ice throne to sit on, which
Yeah,
is very fun for all players. Thanks,
unfortunate.
Geoff Kaplan.
I mean, to be fair,
To be fair,
one of my favorite quotes that I've ever heard a Diva player say is that if you die to a Mei as a Diva, you're not playing Diva right, and I full-heartedly agree with that.
Yeah,
Like a good Diva will not die to a Mei. A good Diva will barely die to a Mei and a Zarya. Like Mei,
the
like Diva,
boosters.
yeah, Diva is so strong that people don't understand that. Like a good diva knows how to manage everything and knows how to manage to basically have a layout of the entire battlefield in their head at all times. And it's crazy to see like what like some of the higher tier divas can do, and it really shows that
Oh god.
Diva's not as weak as she was like when double shield was a thing.
Yeah, I think Dogman said it best when he says, "If you think Zarya is better than Diva, you're just not that good at Diva."
Right, yeah, I definitely would consider myself in that camp where Zarya is that like like the high impact, low input kind of character that she can like consistently
Yeah.
probably do better than like most divas on the ladder. But then when you get up to the higher tiers, all you see is diva because of the technical outplay that you can have on that character.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely cool, and I look forward. I love watching diva play. Like you said, an owl is just like these divas are insane at what they can really
Of
do.
course.
So, and my favorite's Hotba. I've always loved
Yeah.
Hotba ever since Philly. So it's like I really wanted to watch him play again after the death of season one Hotba Fraggy combos. So
I mean, I'm always gonna be a Choi fan and a Nevix fan, like, and then I got my favorite pick, but even though he's not the best diva, I just like his personality, and that has to be Note.
Note's
Yeah.
definitely a good guy.
Uh,
Good
His,
US.
his diva's not as good as it used to be, but he's definitely a great guy, personality-wise.
I have a vendetta against Note because his Rhine is terrible.
I mean,
He's
yeah, he's an
off
off-tank player. What do you expect?
Coaching? I don't know. Alright, let's not get into that.
Good Canadian player stuck on a US team. But yeah,
Unfortunate.
yeah, I think very cool. But that's definitely interesting. Good topic of Diva. Very fun character. I think one of my favorite characters in Overwatch is how different she is.
Yeah.
So, and then for your team, right? And we've already mentioned the 5 teams that you have to play against, like Maelstrom, Caliber, Alta 4, One Tricks, and Tailwind, right? Not in that order. Which one of those teams would you consider the hardest to beat, and who would you consider the easiest to beat? So this is where you say potentially some controversial things. Or I would like you to. You don't have to. I'm not
Honestly,
gonna force you.
I think the easiest would probably be One Tricks. And I don't like saying it, but like kind of like you said, like even One Tricks themselves don't see themselves as a super strong team. And I think I think that's still going to be our easiest match, just because like we see ourselves as a team that like plays really well together. And so, for the most part, we're looking ahead at some of the stronger teams, because those are the ones that we're gonna have to beat, because they work well together and they play well together. But I think probably the easiest one will be One Tricks.
Agree to disagree. I gotta make some spice here. PDK, you're a Junkrat One Trick. Where to roll you? Easiest game, in my
Alta
opinion.
4. Interesting. Okay. Definitely was not thinking you're going to say them, but I love the spice. I very much am a fan of harassing PDK online because he's definitely a 6th grader. So it's okay.
I think the
Love
hardest
you,
is gonna
PDK.
be, and more I still think it's gonna be Caliber. Like we can't say that our rivals aren't gonna be, like, our self-proclaimed rivals aren't gonna be the hardest to beat. Then, like, at that point, what's the point of calling them our rivals? You know what I mean?
Well, I
Hardest
think
team's
that's a
gonna be One
great
Tricks.
point. I
I'm
think,
scared of One Tricks.
yeah.
I'm scared of them. In my rank games, I don't know what to do.
Well, here's a follow-up question, Shadowfang, and then we'll sign out. So I want you to exclude Caliber from your ranking since you consider them your rivals and you already have a different mindset towards them. That's not necessarily they're the hardest opponents, but they're the opponents you want to play the hardest against.
Honestly, our hardest is an interesting one, because they're like, other than them just being our rivals, they are just, like, in general a strong team. Like I said, they're being coached by the old Caliber, where it's just like, or the old Commit, where they literally didn't lose a single game all season, which is already a scary thing to think about. But I think, honestly, I think Maelstrom is gonna be is gonna be a team to look out for.
Yeah.
Definitely.
With Crossfade here.
Yeah. Nagisa is part of the same pug server I am, so I've definitely played her quite a few times, and I've seen what she can do, and I like, even like seeing and hearing like stories from Maelstrom. I'm just like, yeah, this team can be really rock solid if we're not careful.
Definitely teams to look out for. All the ones mentioned. Sorry for Tailwind being the only one that we really didn't get to, but honestly, of
They're
the
too
5 teams, it's the
unknown.
ones I know the least about.
Yeah, they're too unknown. They're another new team, and it's hard to judge a team if like you haven't seen much from them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we've only scrimmed them once, and that they were in the only the first week of the preseason tournament, I believe. I don't want to under like sell what they did, but I'm pretty sure they only played the first game.
Yeah, they lost to Caliber.
Right, that's what I figured, but I wasn't
That's nothing
100%.
to scoff at, but we don't know anything.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but I think that from what I remember, they were definitely a team worth mentioning. They're not there's no team in Discord tier that I would just outright throw to the wayside as the definite bottom team.
Anywhere PDK goes.
I think there's a bottom tier. Ah, okay, where PDK goes. Interesting. Definitely something to look out for. But yes, I'm looking forward to this season of less of a clear bottom team and then more of a bottom tier, a mid tier, and an upper tier. So unlike what it was last season, where it was pretty clear who the worst teams were and who the best team was, there was no best teams really. There were teams that were winning, but there was a best team. So yes, I want to see a little bit more of best
trust
teams,
me,
plural. So I think.
Trust me, I have an idea of the worst teams last season. I was yikers. But like I said, I think we're gonna surprise a few people with what Overtime's gonna be coming up with.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. Cool. So that's pretty much it for what I had. So is there anything else you want to mention before we do sign offs?
Yeah, I do want to mention because there are quite a few new players out there. Like everyone knows that, more and more players are joining every season. And I do want to say, for those people that are starting out in Harmony and are thinking like, oh my god, this is going to be a climb to climb up. I'm like, I came from one of the lower ranked Harmony tier teams, and I've made it up to Discord. Like, you do climb over time, and it's a great starting point.
I'd like to talk to our good friends Bork. Watch out, Harmony. They're very scary.
Nice. All right. Well, that's going to be it. This has been episode 6 of season 2 of the Beat Drop with Overtime. I've been your host, JuCoHi, and thanks for showing up, Billy Goat and Shadowfang. And shout out to your team, and hopefully we had a couple people who were watching from the team and are able to show up definitely here in the week 1, which is coming up even faster as we get really close. So good luck in your first game against Maelstrom, and hopefully we get you guys back on here when we get deeper into the season, hopefully around stage 2 time. I want to start doing interviews with a bunch of other teams again. So this is to anybody else who's in the chat or watching this in post. If you've already been on, don't be afraid to hit me up again, because I mean teams change, and that's what I'm counting on and looking forward to. So this has been the episode. Say goodbye, guys.
Bye, guys. Thanks.
All right, peace.